Good evening and welcome to Sun Middle Temple. We're so happy you've joined this. My name is Alba and I use she, her pronouns. It is our first September observance and I'm so happy you are here. As always, this service is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. Please remember to check out all of our new classes and remember this month's movie survey and image submissions for the upcoming equinox. In addition to this, we wish you all a happy holidays. So we will open today with our opening words, which will appear on the side behind you. Please read along at home or listen as I read the words aloud. We welcome you into the light of the gods and light this flame in celebration. May its brightness symbolize our connection to the gods and the natural world. May you join us in this community of faith, cherishing love and with open hearts. So our theme for this month is environmentalism, and some of the readings you will notice are from our newly minted class. So if you enjoy this observance, please come attend our class. I'm sure you will love it. So our readings today are from The Natural History of Pliny, translated by John Bostock and H.T. Riley, and the Second Georgic by Virgil, translated by James Rhodes. So we will begin with Pliny's Natural History. The world, and whatever that be which we otherwise call the heavens, by the vault of which all things are enclosed, we must conceive to be a deity, to be eternal without bounds, neither created nor subject at any time to destruction. To inquire what is beyond it is no concern of man, nor can the human mind form any conjecture respecting it. It is sacred, eternal, and without bounds, all in all. Indeed, including everything in itself finite, yet like what is infinite, the most certain of all things, yet like what is uncertain, externally and internally embracing all things in itself. It is the work of nature, and itself constitutes nature. It is madness to harass the mind, as some have done, with attempts to measure the world, and to publish these attempts, or, like others, to argue from what they have made out, that there are innumerable other worlds, and that we must believe there to be so many other natures, or that, if only one nature produced the whole, there will be so many suns and so many moons, and that each of them will have immense trains of other heavenly bodies, as if the same question would not recur at every step of our inquiry, anxious as we must be to arrive at some termination, or as if this infinity which we ascribe to nature, the former of all things, cannot be more easily comprehended by one single formation, especially when that is so extensive. It is madness, perfect madness, to go out of this world and to search for what is beyond it, as if one who is ignorant of his own dimensions could ascertain the measure of anything else, or as if the human mind could see what the world itself cannot contain. That it has the form of a perfect globe, we learn from the name which has been uniformly given to it, as well as from numerous natural arguments. For not only does a figure of this kind return everywhere into itself and sustain itself, also including itself, requiring no adjustments, not sensible of either end or beginning in any of its parts, and is best fitted for that motion with which, as will appear hereafter, it is continually turning round, but still more because we perceive it by the evidence of the sight to be in every part convex and central, which could not be the case if it were any other figure. The rising and setting of the sun clearly prove that this globe is carried around in the space of 24 hours in an eternal never-ceasing circuit with incredible swiftness. I am not able to say whether the sound caused by the whirling about of so great a mass be excessive, and therefore far beyond what our ears can perceive, nor indeed whether the resounding of so many stars, all carried along at the same time and revolving in their orbits, may not produce a kind of delightful harmony of incredible sweetness. To us, who are in the interior, the world appears to glide silently along both by day and by night. Various circumstances in nature prove to us that there are impressed upon the heavens innumerable figures of animals and of all kinds of objects, and that its surface is not perfectly polished like the eggs of birds, as some celebrated authors assent. For we find that the seeds of all bodies fall down from it principally into the ocean, and being mixed together, that a variety of monstrous forms are in this way frequently produced. And indeed this is evident to the eye, For in one part we have the figure of a wain, in another of a bear, of a bull, and of a letter, while in the middle of them, over our heads, there is a white circle. With respect to the name, I am influenced by the unanimous opinions of all nations, for what the Greeks, from its being ornamented, have termed kosmos, we, from its perfect and complete elegance, have termed mundus. The name Kolam no doubt refers to it being engraved, as it were, with the stars, as Varro suggests. In confirmation of this idea, we may adduce the zodiac, in which are 12 figures of animals. Through them it is that the sun has continued its course for so many ages. I do not find that anyone has doubted that there are 4 elements. The highest of these is supposed to be fire, and hence produced the eyes of so many glittering stars. The next is spirit, which both the Greeks and ourselves call by the same name, air. It is by the force of this vital principle pervading all things and mingling with all, that the earth, together with the 4th element, water, is balanced in the middle of space. These are mutually bound together, the lighter being restrained by the heavier, so that they cannot fly off, while on the contrary, from the lighter tending upwards, the heavier are so suspended that they cannot fall down. Thus, by an equal tendency in each and opposite direction, each of them remains in its appropriate place, bound together by the never-ceasing revolution of the world, which, always turning on itself, the earth falls the lowest part, and is in the middle of the whole, while it remains suspended in the center, and, as it were, balancing this center, in which it is suspended, so that it alone remains immovable, whilst all things revolve around it, being connected with every other part, whilst they all rest upon it. Between this body and the heavens there are suspended, in this aerial spirit, 7 stars, separated by determined spaces, which on account of their motion we call wandering. Although in reality none are less so, the sun is carried along in the midst of these, a body of great size and power, the ruler not only of the seasons and of the different climates, but also of the stars themselves and of the heavens. When we consider his operations, we must regard him as the life, or rather the mind of the universe, the chief regulator and the god of nature. He also lends his light to the other stars. He is most illustrious and excellent, beholding all things and hearing all things, which I perceive is ascribed to him exclusively by the prince of the poets, Homer. I consider it therefore an indication of human weakness to inquire into the figure and form of God. For whatever God be, if there be any other God, and wherever he exists, he is all sense, all sight, all hearing, all life, all mind, and all within himself. To believe there are a number of gods, derived from the virtues and vices of man, as chastity, concord, understanding, hope, honor, clemency, and fidelity, or according to the opinion of Democritus, that there are only 2, punishment and reward, indicates still greater folly. Human nature, weak and frail as it is, mindful of its own infirmity, has made these divisions so that every one might have recourse to that which he supposed himself to stand more particularly in need of. Hence we find different names employed by different nations. The inferior deities are arranged in classes, and diseases and plagues are deified. In consequence of our anxious wish to propitiate them. It was from this cause that a temple dedicated to fever at the public expense on Palatine Hill and to Orbona near the temple of the Lares, and that an altar was elected to good fortune on Esquiline. Hence we may understand how it comes to pass that there is greater population of celestials than of human beings, since each individual makes a separate god for himself, adopting his own Juno and his own genius. And there are nations who make gods of certain animals, and even certain obscene things which are not to be spoken of, swearing by stinking meats and such like. To suppose that marriages are contracted between the gods, and that during so long a period there should have been no issue from them, that some of them should be old and always grey-headed, and others young and like children, some of a dark complexion, winged, lame, produced from eggs, living and dying on alternate days, is sufficiently puerile and foolish. But it is the height of impudence to imagine that adultery takes place between them, and they have contests and quarrels, and that there are gods of theft and various crimes. To assist man is to be a god. This is the path to eternal glory. This is the path the Roman nobles formerly pursued, and this is now the path which is now pursued by the greatest ruler of our age, Vespasian Augustus, he who has come to the relief of an exhausted empire, as well by his sons. This was the ancient mode of remunerating those who deserved it, to regard them as gods, for the names of the gods, as well as of the stars that I have mentioned above, have been derived from their service and to mankind, and with respect to Jupiter and Mercury and to the rest of the celestial nomenclature, who does not admit that they have reference to certain natural phenomenon? So then we'll move on to the second book of the Georgic by Virgil. And this one has less plainer language, just as a forewarning. It's a little harder to understand. Thus far the tilleth of fields and stars of heaven. Now will I sing thee, Bacchus, and with thee the forest young plantations and the fruit of slow maturing olive. Hither haste, O father of the winepress, all things here teem with bounties of thy hand. For thee with viny autumn laden blooms the field, and foams the vintage high with brimming vats. Hither, O father of the winepress, come, and stripped of buskin stain thy bared limbs. In the new must with me. First, nature's law for generating trees is manifold, for some of their own force spontaneous spring, no hand of man compelling, and possess the plains and river windings far and wide. As pliant osier, the bending broom, poplar and willows in wane companies, with green leaf glimmering gray, and some there be from chance dropped seed that rear them as the tall chestnuts, and, mightiest of the branching wood, Jove's Aesclus, and oak's oracle. Deemed by the Greeks of old, with some sprouts forth a forest of dense suckers from the root, as elms and cherries, so too a pigmy plant, beneath its mother's mighty shade upshoots. The bay tree of Parnassus, such the modes nature imparted first, hence all of the race of forest trees and shrubs and sacred groves, springs into verdure. Other means there are, which use by method for itself acquired. 1. Sliving suckers from the tender frame of the tree mother, plants them in the trench. One buries the bare stumps within his field. Truncheons cleft 4 wise or sharp-pointed stakes. Some forest trees the layers bent arch await, and slips yet quick within the parent soil. No root need others, nor doth pruner's hand shrink to restore the topmost shoot to earth. That gave it being, nay marvellous to tell, lopped off of its limbs the olive a mere stalk, still thrusts its root out from the sapless wood, and off the branches of one kind we see, changed to another's with no loss to rue. Pear tree transformed the engrafted apple yield, and stony coronels on the plum tree blush. Come then, and learn what tilleth to each belongs, according to their kinds, ye husbandmen, and tame with culture the wild fruits, lest earth lie idle. O blithe to make all Ismarus one forest of the wine god, and to clothe with olives huge Tabernus, and be thou at hand, and with me ply the voyage of toil. I am bound on, O my glory, O thou that art justly the chiefest portion of my fame. Maecenas, and on this wide ocean launched, spread sail like wings to waft thee. Not that I, with my poor verse, would comprehend the whole. Nay, though 100 tongues and 100 mouths were mine, a voice of iron be thou at hand. Skirt but the nearer coastline, see the shore is in our grasp. Not now with feigned song, through winded shifting bouts and tedious preludings shall I detain thee. Those that lift their head into the realms of light spontaneously, fruitless indeed, but blithe, strenuous spring, since nature lurks within the soil, and yet even these, should one engraft them or transplant into well-drilled trenches, will anon put of their woodland temper, and by frequent tilleth of to whatso craft thou summon them, make speed to follow. So likewise will the barren shaft that from the stock root issueth, if it be set out with clear space amid open fields. Now the tree mother's towering leaves and boughs darken, despoil of increase as it grows, and blast it in the bearing. Lastly, that which from shed seed ariseth, upwards wins, but slowly yielding promise of its shade. To late-born generations, apples wane, forgetful of their former juice. The grape bears sorry clusters for the birds of prey. Smoothly on all must toil be spent, and all trained to the trench, and at great cost subdued. But reared from truncheons, olives answer best, as vines from layers, and from the solid wood. The Paphian myrtles, while from sucker spring both hardy hazels and huge ash, the tree that rims with shade the brows of Hercules, and acorns dear to the Chaonian sire, so springs the towering palm too, and the fir, destined to spy the dangers of the deep. But the rough arbutus with walnut fruit is grafted, so have barren plains ere now stout apples borne, with chestnut flower at the beech, the mountain ash with pear bloom whitened o'er, and swine-crunched acorns 'neath the boughs of elms. Nor is the method of inserting eyes and grafting one, for where the buds push forth amidst the bark, and burst the membranes thin, even on the knot a narrow rift is made, wherein from some strange tree a germ they pen, and to the moist rind bid it cleave and grow. Or otherwise in knotless trunks is hewn a breach, and deep into the solid grain a path with wedges cloven, then fruitful slips are set herein, and no longer time. Behold, to heaven upshot with teeming boughs, the tree strange leaves admires, and fruitage not its own. Nor one kind alone are sturdy elms, willow and lotus, nor the cypress trees of Ida, nor the self-same fashion spring fat olives, orchids, and radi, and bitter-berried Pusians, no, nor yet apples in the forest of Alcinous, nor from the light cuttings are Crostunian pears, and Syrian, and the heavy hand fillers. Not the same vintage from our tree hangs down, which Lesbos from Methymanna's tendril plucks. Vines Thasian are Nerterides white, these apt for richer soils, lighter those. Phisthian for raisin wine more useful, thin Legios that one day will try the feet and tie the tongue, purples and early ripes. And how, O Rhetian, shall I hymn thy praise? Yet cope not therefore with Phalarian bins, vines Armenian too, best-bodied wine, to which the Tmolian bows him, I, and King Phineus too, and lesser of that name, Argytis, wherewith not a grape can vie, for gush of wine juice or for length of years. Nor thee must I pass over, vine of Rhodes, welcome by gods, and at the second board, nor thee Bomastus with plump clusters swollen, but lo, how many kinds, and what their names, there is no telling, nor doth it boot to tell. Who lists to know it, he too would list to learn. How many sand grains are by Zephyr tossed on Libya's plain, or wot when Eurus falls with fury on the ships, how many waves come rolling shoreward from the Ionian Sea. Not that all soils can all things bear alike. Willows by watercourses have their birth, alders in miry fens, on rocky heights, the barren mountain ashes on the shore, myrtles throng gayest. Bacchus, lastly, loves the bare hillside, and views the north wind's chill. Mark too the earth by outland tillers tamed, and eastern homes of Arabs, and tattooed Geloni, to all trees their native lands, allotted are. No clime but India bears black ebony, the branch of frankincense is Saba's son's alone. Why tell to thee of balsams oozing from the perfumed wood, or berries of the acanthus evergreen, of Ethiop forests hoar with downy wool, or how the cerris comb from off their leaves the silky fleece, of groves which India bears, ocean's near neighbor, earth's remotest nook, where not an arrow shot can cleave the air above their tree-tops, yet no laggards they, when girdled with the quiver. Media yields the bitter juices and slow-lingering taste of the blessed citron fruit, that which no aid comes timelier, when fierce step-dames drug the cup with simples mixed and spells of baneful power, to drive the deadly poison from the limbs. Large the tree's self in semblance like a bay, and showered it not a different scent abroad. A bay it had been, for no wind of heaven its foliage falls. The flower none faster clings, with the metis for sweet, lave the lips, and ease the panting of breathlessness of age. So those were a sample of some of our text from our environmentalism class. And if you did not notice, both of the texts were talking about scientific principles, one such as what the Earth is made of and the system of the Earth. He was, of course, not very correct, but he was closer than some, although he dismissed many of the people of his day who are right. And the other was talking about grafting and the different varieties of trees and their uses and their growing seasons. So you can see that these concepts of environmentalism and discovery have existed for many, many years. Of course, we are all a victim of shifting baseline syndrome, which, if you are not aware, is where one generation takes from nature and leaves what is left for the next generation, who then interprets that version as nature, plunders it, and leaves an even barer area for the next one. But generally, humans have been considering environmentalism and its impacts for many, many years, and it's important that we as modern pagans also consider our environmental impact as we, worship gods that work in these realms. It is part of our devotion to consider our environmental impact, among other things. Although, of course, as we learned, Pliny does not consider all of the gods to exist as part of his writings. However, he's still a fascinating writer, so we're going to listen to him anyway. So I hope you all enjoyed some of those forays into environmentalism, and I hope all of you take some time to consider the environmental impact you're having and how it can be changed or lessened. I will also say it is very important to vote in the upcoming election, so I really hope that everyone who is able to registers to vote. So we'll now move into the ritual part of our observance, and if you want to, you can join us at home and perform the ritual, or you are welcome to simply watch the ritual on the screen. We leave this offering for our gods to symbolize our connection and devotion. We gift this rock to symbolize the stability of the gods in our world. We gift this water to accept the flow of our lives. We welcome life and bless our offerings with oil to share our riches. We embrace our connection to each other and the world and celebrate our revival. We will now read our closing words, which again you can read along side me or just listen as I read them aloud. As we move out into the world, let us remember our community of faith. Cherish love and open your heart as you walk through life. Hold dear the light of the gods and our connection with the natural world. Go forth in celebration and carry the light of connection within your hearts. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season and that everyone is excited for all of our upcoming events and holidays.